This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Hey Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
Hello, fellow gamers, and welcome to the Video Gamers Podcast. Some games crash and burn, others burn bright before simply fizzling out into obscurity. I'm looking at you, Twisted Metal. And yet others might be cult hits, but with a small group of people and just never really warranted a sequel. Whatever the reason, on this episode, we're going to be covering the games or franchises that have been lost to time. Ones that at one point every gamer had heard of, but now are just whispers of times gone by. We'll be talking about some of our favorites, some we honestly don't really even know what happened to, and maybe a few where we know exactly what went wrong. But first, some introductions are in order. I am your host, Josh, and joining me, he had Perfect Dark at the top of his list until I reminded him the remake is coming, and he hasn't stopped smiling since. It's Ryan.
This is why I try to not share ahead of time, because that was just preliminary. Like, I know this is coming out, but I'm excited. But it took a long time for them to kind of revitalize this game. And then Josh, of course, has to just throw a jab. That's how it always is.
I hear what you're saying, Ryan.
Yeah.
It was at the top of your list.
Because that's what I'm so excited for.
Okay, but these are games that are lost to time, not games that are soon to have an awesome looking remake.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll believe it when it comes out.
That is true. I mean, although we did get a pretty sick looking trailer.
I know, the trailer was pretty nice.
Perfect Dark remake. Man. That's a game that we didn't even talk about. I don't think that's coming this year. That's why.
Dude, I feel like we talked about it like a year ago, and it's still like, crickets. So
Yeah, there's not much going on there.
It's lost again. Sure. Where is it? I can't find it.
Over there? 2026? You heard anything about Perfect Dark?
No.
Oh, man. So, welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We have a fantastic episode for you today. There's going to be some games that you probably haven't even heard mentioned in a while. There's going to be some hopes about maybe these games will come back at some point. And there's going to be a lot of like, what the heck happened? Like, what happened to that game, man?
Yep.
So this is going to be a lot of fun. But, man, we are going to start off with a really awesome announcement, something that has us very excited that we kind of want to just announce to the world, to all of our listeners out there, because this is going to be and has already been the catalyst for a lot of really awesome things that everybody is in store for. So a very good friend of ours by the name of John, we are actually bringing on in an official capacity on the podcast or for the podcast to help us out. John is an amazing human. He has a heart of gold. Honestly, his true desire is just to help people in the world. And he's got the heart and the brains to do that. And John has been a friend of ours for a long time. We've been chatting behind the scenes for a while. And we finally said, dude, you need to be a part of this. And he said, I need to be a part of this. And we all kind of just broed out for a little bit and, went, yes, yes, let's do this, man. So John is officially on board. You will see him in our Discord server. You are going to see his influence on a lot of things for this podcast that are coming up. Maybe you'll see him on a show or two. We can't get shown up by other people. So, we're kind of a little hesitant to bring him on the podcast. But just, being a great friend, people have heard Ace of Shame, on the podcast from time to time. And we kind of have a feeling that John will be, definitely on the show so that people can get to know him. We'll probably make him do a draft with us so that we can just crush him, Ryan.
Yes.
In this draft, and then just kind of make sure he stays humble at the same time. So
if I just have to keep looking at his abs on Instagram,
it's ridiculous,
dude,
man.
it's annoying. So
dude's got an 8-pack.
Yeah, I know.
What the heck is with that, man? If I work out forever, I get a 4-pack maybe, and he's just rocking the 8-pack.
Yeah. So we're gonna destroy him in a draft just to bring him back down to earth.
Yeah, you might be a perfect human specimen, but we can kick your butt in video game drafts, man. But honestly, John is fantastic. He's the driving force behind a lot of improvements that are coming to the podcast. I don't know, maybe this third episode we're doing every week with these indie games. Maybe coming soon, a video podcast? What? Yeah. So some awesome charity events. I mean, we are hitting it big time. We love the momentum we have. We cannot thank the listeners enough. I mean, honestly, we have been saying this for a while, but we are experiencing something that honestly, I think people dream about. We are seeing this just kind of very astronomical kind of curve in people finding the podcast, people supporting the podcast. Our community is growing leaps and bounds every day. It's really exciting times. And honestly, we could not be more excited. So, we wanted to just put that out to the world. Thank you, John, for being willing to join us on this adventure. Thank you for kind of kicking Ryan and I's butts into high gear on this. And listeners, you should thank John too, because there's a lot of really awesome stuff coming because of him. So
good stuff is coming everyone's way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It also means a lot more work for me and you, Ryan. So, we can say this now, check in 3 months, and then we'll do a re-intro for John. We'll be like, man, that guy's got us doing 4 shows a week.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. So awesome. But we are very excited. We hope that you are excited with us. One more exciting thing before we actually get into these games that have been lost to time is we have a new epic supporter to thank. I'm just going to say Ollie A, because we don't have a Discord handle or anything else, and I don't want to throw your last name out there either. But thank you so much, Ollie A, for signing up with Epic Status. Make sure you join our Discord server so that we can send you a proper thank you and get you involved in the community as well.
Yeah, Ollie, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to everybody else out there that supports the show. If you have it on your mind or your heart that you do want to support this show, you can do that over at multiplayersquad.com. You can sign up for as little as $5 a month. But it really does help the show, and it helps us just keep putting this content out there for the world. So, Ryan, let's get into it, buddy, because
let's do it.
There's a certain bit of nostalgia that comes to mind with some of these games. And, we like to kind of go down the nostalgia road from time to time. We don't always want to stay there because, not everybody's got the nostalgia for some of these games. But you're going to have heard of these, and we're going to do our best to explain why they were great. And then what the heck happened, man?
Yeah, exactly.
Why did they go away?
It was so good.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things too, and I kind of mentioned this in the intro. I feel like some of these games, and not all of them fit into these categories by any means, but there are games that I think were cult hits. I have one on my list that I'm going to talk about that maybe not a lot of people know about, but are if you know this game, you're going to love this game, and you're going to be like, oh, dude, I remember that. Yeah. But I think it just didn't hit real well. For a large majority of people. A couple games that come to mind for me like this are Undertale is a good one, where it's very, very passionate following of people. But if you haven't played Undertale, you're kind of like, dude, I don't get it. If you played Undertale like I did, and you played a little bit and you went, dude, I don't get it. That could be one of those examples. Amori is another game. I'm sure a few people just shouted with joy. That game is, very beloved by a few people. And then sometimes we have games that like release with a bang and then just die off right away. Like it's like they come out firing and then it just, for whatever reason, they just kind of fade into the mist. But we're going to talk about those, man, and we're going to have a darn good time doing it.
Oh yeah,
so
I'm ready.
Let's get into it, Ryan. I'm pumped, man.
I'm excited.
And I should just say, we just kind of have a list. We're not numbering these. It's not like the number one game that I want to know what happens. So I think this was more just, let's kind of talk about some of these games and what happened to them and why they're memorable and, why we're actually bringing them up on the show. So why don't you get us started, Ryan? Why don't you bring up a game that is just gone, man? Like, where'd it go?
I'm gonna bring up one, and I think this will make some of the listeners happy because it was a recent deep dive that I had to do, and I'm gonna come out with a bang here, and pun intended. I'm gonna go with Red Faction. Like, what happened to such a awesome game? Obviously, they recreated it to the Red Faction Guerrilla Marsters or whatever. Like Remarsters, that's what it was. Yeah, Remarsters, which is just so bad that it's good, which I love. But I was introduced to this because of the deep dive, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the gameplay. I loved the destructive environments, and it was something that, with today's technology and the ability to really create some vast, amazing worlds that you can destroy, create it to knock it down, if you will. Like, why is this not like a series that's continuing? Why are they not making more of this game?
It's really weird because I have never played a Red Faction game, and you hadn't either.
Yes.
I mean, we've heard of them. Like, we both were like, dude, I've heard of the Red Faction series. But then you got forced into playing it, and I think it was Red Faction Guerrilla, if I remember right.
Guerrilla's
right?
The one.
Yeah. And then you actually quite enjoyed it.
Dude, I loved it.
It's weird because it seemed like it was very much ahead of its time with the physics and the destructible environments and all this stuff. And I remember actually watching some gameplay, and I went, dude, this is actually kind of a neat concept.
Yeah.
And then it just went away.
Just poof. Gone.
Yeah. Yep. And I think because, this is one where they did actually release, I'm pretty sure that they released one called Armageddon, and that Armageddon did not do very well. And so I think what happened is when you start to kind of see, hey, we're onto something, and then it declines, and then you make a sequel, and then that sequel really underperforms, I think a lot of these studios get shy and they just say, oh man, this series really is not resonating with people anymore. So let's just move on. And it's kind of sad in a way because that means like money was the deciding factor on what was a really good series.
Yeah.
And then just like kind of one bad
thing, man. Money moves. So it's just, if you don't perform, then, it's just everybody looks at that, and it's really hard to get that next kind of, okay, I know this one didn't do good, but we got some really good ideas for this next one, trust me, man, and so when
that's
people
what EA says all the time, man.
Oh, gosh,
trust us, guys.
Don't even get me started.
But this is a good question, right? Because why isn't EA learning from this?
Yeah.
Right? Like Battlefield. Right? Yeah. Like, why didn't they learn? Like, just let the series die, man. Like, that's what THQ did with Red Faction. And then EA's like, nah, man, we're just going to keep making these. Because you throw enough darts, one of them will be okay.
Dinguses like us will keep buying it. Like, well, maybe. You know
what I hate? I will absolutely buy the next Battlefield.
I know, me too.
As much as we trash it, it's like, I know. I'm an idiot.
Quit,
man.
No, you're bringing me down. You're bringing me down. Let's go to the next one. What do you got?
What do you got? Let's go. Okay, so I am going to bring up one of my favorite franchises of all time.
Oh.
And I actually nerded out the other day because I found out that there is a fan-made, like, kind of remaster mod for this game that is free for people to pick up. And that is a series called Deus Ex. Dude,
yes.
Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex, I remember I was probably 12, 13, somewhere around there, a kid in the prime of like, oh my goodness, gaming is the most amazing thing ever. And the original Deus Ex is to this day a mind-blowing game. It was so far ahead of its time. It was unreal. All these people that are talking about, dude, your choices matter. You know, you can approach things in like all these different ways. Baldur's Gate 3. You know, it's one of the things that people love about Baldur's Gate 3 is you can approach any mission, any quest, any challenge in 100 different ways. Your imagination is the only thing holding you back. And Deus Ex was one of those games where you could actually approach a situation from like 4 or 5 different angles. And at the time, that was mind-blowing, dude. Like nobody had done that. It's got espionage, it's got cybernetics, it's futuristic. You know, you're Adam Jensen, you're this super cool Neo looking dude who's got this good voice actor and you just sound super cool. And I just remember everything about this game made me feel like I was some kind of futuristic cybernetic spy, you know, hacking terminals and all this stuff. And then they came out with, I don't remember the exact order. I think it's like Mankind Divided and Human Revolution are the other two. I might have those swapped as far as the release dates. They tried to take them to the next level, and I think they just didn't quite succeed 100%. I played both of those games, and honestly, they're both pretty good. Yeah. Like they don't have the magic of the original, but they were still very good video games, and you can pick these things up super cheap now. And then it's just like, what the heck happened? This is like Mass Effect, like or like Witcher or something just falling to the wayside. Like, can you imagine if after Witcher 3 they just kind of went, we're done. We're not making Witcher 4. We're good. Now, you know, to be fair, the sequel, Mankind Divided and Human Revolution, were not great, but they were still very good video games.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, they weren't that bad, man. It's not like they killed the franchise. So, like, what the heck?
I know.
Where did they go?
It's so weird because if you ask any gamer, you know, like of our age, 30s, 40s, you know, in that genre or type, age type, like, everybody knows the name Deus Ex. Like, you were familiar. You saw that it was released, even if you didn't play it. Like, you were familiar with it. And for something that was that kind of worldwide transcendent, like, to just disappear, it's just so weird. You always wonder, like, what happened to cause this to not be continued? Like, how do they not see money in this to make more, you know? And it's just one of those weird things, especially like you said, it was totally ahead of its time. There was so many crazy things that just blew your mind in real time playing that game. And then just to not get a continuation, it's like almost frustrating. You're like, come on, man, what the heck?
They had it all, dude. They had stealth, they had combat, they had technology, they had multiple approaches to any situation. They had choices that actually mattered and you would find out later on in the game and stuff like that. It was just gaming perfection, dude. And then 2 sequels that were maybe subpar to the original, but still pretty good.
Yeah.
And then it just gone.
Just died.
That one makes me sad, dude. Deus Ex was so good, man.
It was.
Yeah. It was. All right, Ryan, before we get to your next one, let's take a quick break and then we'll see what's up next on your list.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places. Between payroll, your tax consultant, and the IRS. If your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Ryan, I'm still feeling a little nostalgic for Deus Ex. Get me out of this little bit of melancholy I got going on, man. What you got here?
This ain't gonna help for sure.
Oh no, no.
So speaking of like stealth and that type of thing, and then just kind of memories and like something that was so big back in the day, and I think a lot of these are going to be kind of, older type games, because those are the series that after 5 to 10 years, you're like, dude, what the heck? Why haven't you made another game? Where is it? So I'm going to go with Siphon Filter.
Dude, Siphon Filter is a game that I've never played, and I see so many people talk about. Yeah. So you got to explain this one to me a little bit. You missed out, man. So the original was in 1999. The most recent one they had, I think, was in like 2007 or something like that, where one of the sequels. But the biggest one was the original. I remember it was that kind of, you're used to playing GoldenEye, or as we started the show, Perfect Dark, all these types of espionage, secret agent games, and you're this cool guy. But this was one where you actually, it was that next stage in graphics. So it was that late 90s where things kind of took that next step up, and it was just there was something different about it, to where you could move throughout the world. You could traverse with the night vision and the combat, the gun. Was this like Splinter Cell? Was it like a spy espionage? It was very much spy espionage, just a lot like Splinter Cell. I think almost. I mean, I don't know. I may be totally way off base, and I'm just going off the cuff here. But Splinter Cell may be like kind of the carry on, the spiritual successor, if you will, of Siphon Filter. I just remember playing it as a kid, thinking that it was the coolest spy game I had played up to that time, and then it just disappeared. I don't remember playing any more after that. I don't remember hearing any more after that, and it was one of those that just like, why did this game disappear? Like, there was so much there, and then it's just gone. And it was just one of those that weird, dude. I think just fits this mold of this was awesome. It hit hard, and then it disappeared. Like a one hit wonder type, quote unquote type thing. Yeah, but this is the thing, right? Because it's like, I have heard a lot of people talk about Siphon Filter, and I know that this is an older game. This is one that I'm just kind of completely ignorant to be honest, other than the name and other than hearing friends talk about it like back in the day. So it's like, there was obviously something there that resonated with people, and then it just went nowhere. Yeah. And it's like, why? Was it fighting in the studio? Like, is that they just couldn't get along anymore? And they're like, I'm out, and then it's like the game's just sitting there, just like reaching out, like, but what about me? What about me? I'm a good game. Make more. Yeah. Yeah, man. You missed out for sure, because it was one of those that at its time for sure was definitely next level. It was something that I remember, just this subway level. And you're trying to go through these tunnels, and you're fighting through this train car and the subway, and it was just something I'd never experienced before. And I was like, this is going to go on forever. This is awesome. I love this game, and I can't wait for more of it. And then I never really had that continuation. I know, like I said, there was more that came out, but the series just kind of died. And obviously we don't have any more now, so it fits the mold, but it's just a bummer. I feel like the first Splinter Cell, and again, I could be wrong on this, but I almost wonder if it was just overshadowed. Like somebody did it better than them. I feel like that's the general kind of tingle, is like they had something, and then somebody came along and went, let us introduce you to Splinter Cell. And then they went, oh man. Well, because if you hear that sound, and I'm gonna try to put it in right here. Okay. That's the Splinter Cell sound, and you know what that is, what that goes to. Yeah. It's just like that, bing, and that's, dude, your goggles are up and you're going, you're moving now. Yeah, stealth mode engaged. Yeah, exactly. All right, well, listen, everybody. I mentioned Twisted Metal in the intro. People that have been listening to the show for a while know how I feel about Twisted Metal. I freaking love Twisted Metal. I played the heck out of that game. I absolutely loved it. I played all of them. Yes, they kind of started to fall off. Twisted Metal 2, in my opinion, I think was the best one. Twisted Metal Black was pretty good. I think Twisted Metal 3 was probably a disaster. I that is the one series when people say what's a series you want to see remade again. It's my instant answer. But I'm not going to harp on Twisted Metal because everybody knows. But I had to throw it out there because it wouldn't be an episode about dead games if I didn't bring it up. I am going to bring up, and this is the other one that I kind of hinted at early on, Jade Empire.
Oh,
so I don't know if you guys remember this game, dude, but this was the height of BioWare back in the heyday, and it just came out of nowhere. Jade Empire was basically the game that BioWare, and I think this came out after KOTOR, if I remember right, or KOTOR 1. I could have my timelines off a little bit. Honestly, it's not important, but it's like BioWare was in their heyday. They were making just the greatest games that people had come across, and they made this game called Jade Empire.
Dude, I remember this game.
Dude, see, this is what I'm talking about, right?
I'm looking at
you
pictures
forgot
right
about
now.
it, didn't you? Yes, dude, you got to be like kung fu masters. You could be like, you got all kinds of different weapons. It was like you got martial arts.
Yeah.
It was your choices matter, dude. This was like Mass Effect, but like in ancient, like feudal Japan kind of thing. Actually, I don't even know if it's feudal Japan, but it was like action combat to where you were kicking butt. And I just remember thinking like, dude, this game is incredible. Great characters, great choices, great combat. That classic height of the, of BioWare where they were just putting out some of the best games ever. And then that was it. No Jade Empire 2, no anything else. It was just, we made this absolute banger of a video game.
Yeah.
And then we just never touched it again.
Just like, that's it. We're good. That's plenty.
I know why. Like, this is one of those ones where, like, this is Mass Effect. Mass Effect killed Jade Empire. Like, they came out and they said, hey, you know what? We have this idea for this space kind of game. But, dude, Jade Empire was so good. I loved that game so much, man. And it's not like this was a bad game. This game was a banger. And then they just went, yeah, we're going to, oh, you mean everybody in the world loves Mass Effect? Okay, we're just going to keep making Mass Effect, people. And my sweet, sweet Jade Empire was an empire no more.
Empire no more. Yeah, that's one of those, like, dude, this is, looking at these pictures is throwing me way back. That's what happens when you get these forgotten, lost in time. Like, people wonder, even just with, I'm a big history buff, so like, you wonder how certain things in the world or in history just get lost in time. And like a game like this, the second I looked at the pictures, I'm like, oh yeah,
you remember it, right?
Yeah. Dude,
look this up.
I know.
It's going to ring a bell for a lot of people.
Exactly.
And the ones that know, that's why I said they know.
Imagine not having computers or the ability to just kind of pull stuff up. That's how things get lost, basically, is the long and the short for what I'm trying to say. But
yeah,
man, that's a really good pick. Man, yeah, that's
it makes me almost want to go back and play it, dude. Like, legitimately, just to like, am I looking at it through rose-colored glasses at this point? But I don't think I am. That game was awesome.
I think at every level, like going back to old games, you're always going to have that. If it's nostalgic for you, you're going to have that little bit of rose tint to them. But some of them still just, even if comfort of life or certain things don't hold up. Because it's an older game, some of them you can still appreciate what it was, and what it even is today. Like, you're like,
right.
This is what it is, but I still, this is still pretty cool. I love it. That's awesome, man.
What do you got? What do you got up next, Ryan?
So I'm going to go with one that I just, man, for something that in the, I don't know. I'm not that old, but I'm assuming late 80s, but then all through the 90s that just was something that was a mainstay in all video games. I'm going with Mega Man.
Oh my goodness. I freaking love Mega Man, dude.
How can you have so many games within such a small period of time, like let's say late 80s to late 90s, like that span, to have so many games that I remember personally playing just as a kid, and then even when I was older, going back to play them, and I'll even, go back here and there now, to have so many games, and then just poof, like, everybody knows Mega Man, everybody knows about Mega Man, every gamer knows of the Mega Man games, but why is that series just gone? Like where did it go? Where
I don't know.
At?
Dude,
where are you?
Yeah, and this is weird because I don't was Mega Man like a straight up Nintendo IP? That was Capcom.
Yeah, it was Capcom.
Mega Man was Capcom if I remember right.
Yeah.
And it's weird to me because I remember playing Mega Man on the old Nintendo. Dude, the premise of those games where it was platforming, it was shooting, it was boss fights. You got the boss abilities, dude. Like. That's the only. There may have been other games that did it before then, but that's the game to me that's like, dude, you fight this boss and you beat this boss, you get their ability.
Yeah.
And it was like the leaf shield and the bubble and, all that stuff. And it was like, yes, you could play that game in any order. And it was super hard to beat some of those bosses, like Nintendo hard.
Yeah.
Or if you did them in the right order and you got the right ability from one boss, it really simplified the other boss in that case. And then it was like, oh, I'm an idiot. I should have done this in the first place.
I should have done this way.
The most recent thing I can remember is it's not even called Mega Man. It's 20XX. I think it's free. I can't remember if it's free or not, or if it's like very cheap. But somebody made a almost like a remake of Mega Man, and it was just called 20XX. And I remember playing it, and it was so good, dude.
Yeah. I
don't know what happened to those, man. Like, what's not to love? Platforming, shooting, boss fights, upgrades, abilities. Can somebody not bring this into modern times and turn this into, we're getting Mario games, Zelda games, Donkey Kong games left and right. Like, give us a brand new Mega Man.
Yeah. And then I know they have the most recent entry, I believe, is Mega Man 11. But that was like all the way back in 2018. But it's like, man, it's been a while and it hasn't been that. Well, they're making more games. It's not what it once was. And you're like, Mega Man was huge. It was everything, in gaming back then. And so it feels like it's just gone. It's kind of that lost game.
I think if I had to guess in this case, because I do like talking about like what happened to them, right? Like
exactly.
Why did these fail or why did they go away? There's over 130 games in the Mega Man series.
Oh my gosh.
So is this just simply like you flooded the market, dude? When you make 130 Mega Man games, like you're going to have an awful lot of them that just don't hit. And when enough of them don't hit, you probably just go, well, we've tapped this series for all it's worth.
Move on to the next, IP and then just kind of go from there. But yeah, that makes sense, man. That's a lot. I didn't realize it was that many. Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, this is between all platforms, Game Boys, portables, all that stuff too. But yeah, that makes, dang it, Ryan. I freaking loved Mega Man.
Dude, I loved it. I had a game on PlayStation, Mega Man Legends, came out in I think 97 or something like that. And it was definitely one of those that's like a core memory of Mega Man. The older ones for sure, but that was the one that you could just cruise around. And it was like open world almost. But
I have this very vivid memory still of being a kid and going over to my best friend's house, and we would all try to beat the boss. And if you died, you just hand the controller to the next guy. He'd be like, give me a turn. And then it was just next guy up kind of thing. And of course, we'd sit there for hours trying to beat it. But then if somebody did beat it, you were so happy. You were cheering for your buddy, but then you were also like, dang it, I wanted to be the one. I wanted to be the one,
And
it was kind of like, that guy got lifted up and it's like, yeah. And you're like, but I wanted to be the one to beat him. Oh, man. Dude, I freaking miss Mega Man, dude.
For sure.
All right.
What do you got?
I'm going to go with just a category of games here. And,
okay.
And there's going to be older people that really are going to just be happy with me right now. And there's going to be a whole lot of other people that are like, dude, I've heard of these, but I've never played them, so I don't understand. I'm just going to group it as a whole, and I'm going to say Sierra games in general.
Oh.
Dude, when I was a kid, the games that, I grew up on Atari. I grew up on Atari 2600, then NES, then Sega. When we had a computer, well, we always had a computer because my dad was kind of a tech guy. But when we got our first, I think it was a 386, it could actually do graphics and beep beep sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember Sierra was one of the first games that I ever played. And I think I can't remember if it was Police Quest or Heroes Quest. I don't actually remember the very first Sierra game I ever played. It might have been King's Quest. These games were the pinnacle of gaming. They were adventures. They had memorable characters. You had to interact with your environment. You had to solve puzzles. Dialogue mattered. So they were always telling like this really neat story. And then they kind of started to evolve, right? Like, so there was King's Quest early on where you were just this kind of squire guy walking around this kingdom trying to figure stuff out. And it was always these neat little puzzles where you had to kind of observe things and be like, oh, is that a rock over there? And then you could put the rock in your inventory. And then later on, you'd see a bird in a nest with something twinkling in the nest. And it was like, if you had the rock, you could throw the rock and then the bird would fly away. And then you'd climb the tree and get whatever the thing out of the nest was. And it was like, they were kind of like, I don't want to call them puzzle games, but they had actual puzzles like built into them. And then, dude, then they started to evolve. Then they turned into Heroes Quest, which got rebranded into Quest for Glory for people that may not remember the old Heroes Quest games. These are the games that I grew up on. Then they started to branch out because we actually had this conversation. They got into like these really kind of funny games like Leisure Suit Larry, where these were like very adult themed.
Yeah.
But they were hilarious. You know, like I remember my parents cracking up playing these, and they, for being adult, they really didn't show a whole lot in that case, but it was still like just adult themed. And I remember, I was a gamer. I wanted to see the game. My parents were like, no, you're not coming in here.
No, you know.
But then I played them later on. I'm like, okay, well, these are hilarious, man. Sierra games, in my mind, were some of the best games that ever existed. The only modern games that I can think of that kind of compare are if you've ever played like the Monkey Island games, and because they just had one, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, that like kind of they did the final chapter of or whatever. That's the very similar style. Sierra games, they were just they were like the height of my childhood. It was this weird thing because not everybody had computers. A lot of people had NESs and Segas, but if you didn't have a computer, you couldn't play a lot of these games. And so it was this rare mix of like almost a little bit exclusive, but people that had computers and were playing Sierra games all loved them. And it was just good times, man.
Dude, for sure. And it's funny because it shows the kind of the broad reach that they had and the longevity. And obviously they're not anything what they were before, but I mean, you say that was part of your childhood, but also for me, I was born a little bit later. So like the late 90s was when I was kind of in my youth and in my gaming peak, no responsibilities. I can just play games. And that's when I had like Half-Life and SWAT 3. I remember was like one of my favorite games as a kid, and I'm arresting guys and saving people, and just those games play different than everything else, and that's bringing it to something newer. That's what I love so much about oh geez, now I'm gonna forget with Russia and or not Ukraine with
Stalker 2?
Stalker 2. Yeah, Stalker 2.
Stalker 2 had a little bit of that old school
has
vibe,
that, almost
like that old feel.
That old school kind of not to say clunky, but like that.
They didn't hold your hand at all, dude.
They didn't hold your hand. It was that feel of like that old school Sierra game, and that's what I love so much. That's why I love Stalker 2. And those games, late 90s, that was my peak, and I loved them. So that's cool to see that you kind of had your window with that Sierra games, and I also had my own window with a whole different series of games with the same people, which was so cool, man. But it's like, where'd they go?
Want to make a comeback. And I know that actually the founders of Sierra started working on like a remake. I think it was called Crystal Caverns, if I remember right. I need to check back into that. So because I like answering this question, what happened to Sierra Games is they got bought out by Activision. They actually merged with Activision and became Activision Blizzard. So there's like, I don't know if this makes me happy. It kind of does in a way because it's like, I mean, we had some really good games from Activision Blizzard, but it's like there's a little bit of Sierra Games DNA in there. I
think so.
And I like to believe that that's what made like, like some of these games the games that they are.
That's funny. No, that's a good point for sure.
All right, what's up next for you, man?
Oh man. Geez. I'm going to go with one that gosh, I don't know. I don't know how relevant it is in today's gaming world with how just quick and instant response everyone wants everything, and you can't just go and do whatever you want in this game. This is strategic. You have to take your time. You have to make sure that you go across the river properly. You don't want to get dysentery. You know?
I was gonna say, I know what this.
Every kid who had speech class as a child, you know, their speech teacher just shuffled you off to the computer, which is what mine did, and I played Oregon Trail. Dude. What the heck happened to Oregon Trail, man? It was something that I don't understand. Like, it is such a cool premise in thought of you got to get from here to there. You got to trade, you got to hunt, you got to do all these things, and they could make it such a cool, like, imagine Red Dead 2, but scaled down to where you just got to make this linear path across the Oregon Trail. Why can't we do that?
Dude, there's something. There was something about Oregon Trail because it was like the one game that every school computer had hidden.
Everybody had it, yeah.
But it was like hidden. They weren't like it wasn't like, hey, everybody go play Oregon Trail. It was you have like this hour in the library that you're supposed to be doing like schoolwork, and everybody would like go over the computers, and then the students figured out like, dude, if you do this and you do that, like there's a game on this computer, and you'd be like, what, a game? And be like, yeah, man, just type in like, you know, and this was DOS back in the day. So it was like, you know, you got to go to the directory, and they'd be like, dude, CD /dir star dot, you know, and then like, it'd be like, you know, run OregonTrail.exe. And like you felt almost like, and then sure enough,
command execute, boom, Oregon Trail. You're like, yes.
Yeah. And then you got to play games during library or whatever it was.
Library time. I never killed so many rabbits ever in my life.
And then poor Marcia would always get dysentery and die. The beauty of Oregon Trail, I think, was that it taught you, especially as a younger gamer, it taught you like you better think ahead a little bit.
Yep.
You know, sure, like buying all the oxen or the food or bullets is a good idea, but like you better think about some wheels.
Yeah.
Because if you break a wheel and you don't have one, you're all dead.
You're done.
You're dead in the wilderness, man.
Oh, your wagon yoke, you know, dude. My 8-year-old self was like, "Oh no, I better prep for this." It's like, what?
Yeah,
I mean, it's good.
What's funny is there was a recent remake of Oregon Trail. I say recent; it's probably been in the last like 5 or 6 years. I never checked it out. It's like it's one of those games I just want my memories of sneakily playing it in the library, you know, and trying not to get caught by your teacher. Because if your teacher walked by and saw that you were playing video games on this computer, she'd make you shut it off, and you know nobody wanted that. So. Yeah, Oregon Trail, it's a classic game that oddly has withstood the test of time, even though I don't know if the remake's any good or the graphical improvements that they've tried to make on that. I just never tried it.
Yeah, I haven't either. It looks like I pulled some stuff up here. It looks like they released some sort of remake on the Switch in 2022. Yeah. But it's definitely not. I think the spirit of this episode. I think the magic's gone. Yeah, I think the magic's gone. I think the spirit of this episode is like these games are not what they once were, and like what happened to the series and where is it from now, you know, because people are gonna be like, oh, they just released one this, you know, time, but it's like it's not what it was.
Yeah. Oh, so. Absolutely. All right, dude, I'm gonna bring up one of my favorite series of I said this with Deus Ex, and it's still to me to this day is one of my favorite series of all time. I'm just gonna call it the X-Wing / TIE Fighter games back in the day.
Oh yeah,
dude. There was something about being able to pilot an X-Wing or a TIE fighter in space with a joystick on a computer and just dogfight like all of these things. They put you in the most impossible situations. These games were hard, dude. Like I can't tell you how many times I died from just a swarm of TIE interceptors or something like that. And then it's like you started to become the best pilot ever, man. I felt like Poe Dameron, you know, where it's just like, I'm the greatest X-Wing pilot alive. Yeah. And I mean, graphically, they were not much. I know that they've done some kind of fan-made, like high-res type stuff on these, but there was some kind of crazy just magic back in the day with playing these games and shooting down TIE interceptors or TIE bombers or defending your Mon Calamari Star Cruiser against this big assault or something like that. And then just when you thought like, you know, hey, I'm finally getting good, you get this briefing and this mission where it's like, it's time to take out a Star Destroyer. And you're like, wait, really?
Like a real one?
And then you have to fly your way in. You know, they're sending little squads of interceptors and TIE fighters after you. And then sure enough, dude, you were cruising along the sides of this massive Star Destroyer and you're blowing up the shield generators. And it was absolutely incredible, dude. I remember begging my parents to buy a joystick so I could actually fly properly.
Yeah.
and I thought I was the coolest thing ever when I had the one that had like the little rocket button on it, at the top. Where I was like, fire missiles, pew, pew, pew.
So did yours actually work? Your joystick worked?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
so yeah, dude.
I was notorious, and thinking back, God bless my parents for putting up with me, because the amount of times at whatever sales and estate sales and garage sales and everything, I'm always like, let me get this, let me get that. And this is game stuff and computer stuff where components were not what they are today, ladies and gentlemen. Just telling you right now, things were hard to get working back then. You had to have all the right ports and drivers, and it was a little difficult. So, dude, the amount of joysticks that I bought to play like simulation games or PC, F-22 Lightning III, I was going to fly fighter jets, and I was like, I'm going to have this,
Yeager's,
and
Ace
then
Combat,
I went through like 3, and none of them worked. I couldn't get them to work. My parents didn't know what the heck to do, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, just go to the next game. But man, that's awesome that you actually got one to work, and then you were playing that game.
It was so great. And it's really weird to me. They and still to this day, and this is not nostalgia, mind you, they are still the best dogfighting space combat games that I have ever played. Like, legitimately. And I got so hyped when Star Wars Squadrons came out, because I was like, somebody did it. This is my childhood,
finally.
But in 4K. And it wasn't the same, man. I don't know it just didn't have the same feeling. Give me a single player game. And I know that game had a single player campaign to it, but it just wasn't, they lost something there. And maybe it was just the difficulty. I don't know, but dude, I really wish that there was an excellent space dogfighting game like that. And I have tried a few over the years. Some of them are okay. They're high speed and this and that, but they're just missing something. I don't know if it's just that they're missing Star Wars or they're missing those sounds of a TIE fighter like screeching, but I don't know. But nothing has ever compared to that. And I have sought it out repeatedly in my adult years. So if somebody knows of a game that is equal to the X-Wing TIE fighter games, let me know. Because I would love to experience that again, man.
For sure. All right. Well, I got one here. I think it'll probably be our last one for this. But I'm going to go with the game that also kind of in that youth time that I thought there was going to be a million in this series, because I thought it was such a unique, dark take on just a kind of action environment type game. I'm going to go with Max Payne.
Another series I've never played.
You never played Max Payne?
I know.
Really?
I'm very familiar with the name. I'm familiar that people love it. I know it's iconic, but dude, just like Siphon Filter, I don't know. I need to look back and see what I was playing when all these games came out.
EverQuest. You were playing EverQuest.
That might very well have been it, dude. I didn't need any other video game for years because that was the only one, man.
That was me in like the late teens of recent years. Is all I played was Destiny, so I missed like games for like 3 or 4 years. But dude, Max Payne was one of those where, man, it came out in 01. The first one came out in 01. And it was one of those where it just was taking those new kind of game mechanics to the next level, to where you could have like that slow motion Matrix style gun shooting, gun battles. And, it was dark. It was gritty. There was kind of some, not the best content for young Ryan, but I was going to play it anyways. And it was just one of those that I thought was going to continue on. They went to Max Payne 3 and it ended in 2012. I think it just kind of bled off and they didn't have any interest in making any more, but it was one of those that I thought was going to continue on and it just didn't.
Were these also like spy type games? Like I never played one. So you're this kind of beaten up, trodden down detective guy that no luck. It had that kind of aw shucks, no luck type guy, but you're in this dark, gritty world and you're this detective and your family was, killed. And I don't want to spoil things if people want to go back to play these games, but
there was something about it. You're basically you're this detective guy that's going out to kill the bad guys, and you're not the best guy either. And so there was something to it, to where, you know, it was that mix between, you know, towing the line of good and bad. So yeah, man, there was just something there.
I actually looked this up because I wanted to see what happened to the series. And basically with this one, Remedy Entertainment shifted their focus to Alan Wake and Control.
Dude,
so they kind of went, we had this
they made some good decisions.
I mean, that's not, you know, this is an example of like, okay. It's kind of like with Jade Empire. It's like, I really can't complain that we got Mass Effect.
Out of that. It's like, okay, I'll take it.
It's like, all right, well, if you guys ever get bored and want to make a Jade Empire 2, that's fine. But sometimes, you know, it's funny because sometimes these studios take what they learned, and then instead of trying to continue like a franchise and saying we're kind of beholden to this, I kind of like that sometimes they'll just say, we learned a lot of lessons. Now we're going to make a new IP and we're really going to put everything into effect on this.
I agree. I think it's smart to learn when to realize that this served its time, and while we appreciate it and we love it, we're going to move on to this now and put our efforts into this, and we can make something great, you know. So, and not to just, you know, like beat a dead horse, Marvel with, you know, their movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of things reaching the end of their time, Ryan, that is the end of this episode. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. Listen, if there's games that you go, how did you guys not mention this? Or, you know, a game that you really just are dying to talk about, we have a place for that. It is our community. It is over 850 gamers strong at this point. That is an awesome community. It is gamers hanging out, chatting video games, no toxicity, no insulting people for opinions and game takes and things like that. It is respectful. It is family friendly. There are gamers of all ages that are there. And if that sounds like it is your place, then we want you to be there. The link is in the episode description. We are so excited about the future of this podcast. I mean, you guys, like I said, people will be hearing more about John as well, but man, just when something awesome comes out and you're like, Josh and Ryan didn't do this before, like, yeah, you can thank John for that as well. You know, that means we're going to be trying some stuff. You know, we're actually actively working on trying to get some industry people as guests on the show to kind of talk to voice actors and talk to, you know, other people that are in the gaming industry, like, you know, an animator, hopefully we're going to have on the show to talk about like game animation and kind of how that stuff goes too. So we're going to be trying a lot of stuff. If we want your opinion, you know, that's how we get better. If we try something and you go, guys, this just wasn't it, let us know. I mean, we are here for the listeners. We do this because we are passionate about it, but we really want to expand the content that we can bring everybody. And we are so excited to do that, man. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the listeners. So for every person that is listening right now, like genuinely, we are humbled by the response. We are humbled that we have made so many incredible friends through this just being dumb and talking about video games, man. We say that almost daily where it's like, dude, I don't know how we got here. I don't know how we've made all these friends. And it's just awesome, man. So thank you to everybody out there. Remember, if you haven't done so already, like and follow the podcast, rate us 5 stars. By the way, if you drop a screenshot of your rating and that you're following the show, we're going to donate $10 to a foster charity. So make sure you do that as well. It only takes a few seconds. That's it for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And until next time, happy gaming.
See ya.